And we have a booklet. We don't have any here. I'm doing more orders Bezras Hashem tomorrow. So if you don't have a book, or if you want to join now, you can still join now. It's not too late. And we'll add you to our WhatsApp group, and you'll just go through with the entire group, reading the journal entry each day, and then journaling yourself. It can be as little as 1 word or 4 words if you need, or more than that, however much your neshama would like. And if you do each quota, if you get the prize from each week, then at the end you'll get the ultimate grand prize, which you're definitely going to want. Michal always has great grand prizes, so if this is a taste of what's to come, you can only imagine what the grand prize is. All right, so some of you I know by your face, but if I kind of look confused, just raise your hand, please. Hani, here you go. Pass to her. Okay. Eliana, me. Okay. Sima, here you go. Frema is not here, but congratulations to her. Nechamadina. Okay. Like I said, I don't know, so if I look confused, please help me. Chana Simcha is not here. Yosefa is out of town.
She's watching though, so
Mazel tov, mazel tov. How's the schnitzel? Did you try it yet? Bela, she's not here. Tamar is not here. Gula is in Montreal. Estra. Okay. Okay. Great. Rachel Schmertling. Yep. Menucha. Okay. Rivka Leah. Okay. And Bracha. There you go. Mazel tov, mazel tov.
Okay. Now I want to thank you everybody for coming. This is a great schos. And I want to introduce Mrs. Jacobson. I first met you, I think, at the Women's Circle. I'm pretty sure. And she was teaching the Chassidishe Society, which she so graciously does every month. And we're so lucky to have her at the Women's Circle. And I knew that it had to be an incredible match. And so she has spoken for us almost every single year since Living Chassidus opened. And we are so, so lucky to have her. She is the director of the Chassidishe Society, which is a project, division of JLI. And she is also the wife and mother of incredible people. Baruch Hashem. And now we'd like to thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
I don't know where you want it. Do you want to?
Should I wear it or should I leave it? What's better?
Probably wear it.
Okay, no problem. I mean, does this count?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Scarf counts? Okay, see, that's why we wear scarves. Okay, anyway, thank you so much. That's so nice. It's always great to be part of this. I really have to say so. It's one of the most wonderful, pure groups of people. And I really have been everywhere. It's one of the things I do is I really travel around and I meet many, many people. This is really a very, very wonderful thing. And I really wonder if everybody knows what's going on in their own backyard. We have to find a way to let more people know because it's really a great thing. And thank you for letting me be part of it. So today is a very special day. It is obviously Yud Dalet Kislev, the 14th of Kislev, the anniversary, the 92nd, I believe, anniversary, right? 91st or 92nd? 90th? Oh, I don't know why I thought it was ending the 91st. Okay, I thought it was the 91st ending the 92nd. Okay. Oh, wait, is it because I'm thinking of the, okay, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Bottom line is that what I really want to say is that it's actually as far away removed as we're getting year-wise, we are actually not any further than the year that the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin got married, because the lessons that we all learned from that wedding are actually alive and with us every single moment. As a matter of fact, before I say anything else, I'll say something that you probably know, but I think about this every time I get a wedding invitation in the mail. And trust me, we get tremendous amount of invitations. And I'm really, really grateful to God that I have so many wonderful friends. I really, really mean it. It never fails to amaze me that every time you open up an invitation from somebody that considers themselves Chabad, Lubavitch, connected to the Rebbe somehow, no matter how fancy or how simple, if it's an ornate piece of paper or envelope or whatever, or if it's a Xerox copy, or if it's just something that you get online, you will look, next time you get an invitation, you'll notice something about every invitation that comes from someone who considers themselves a Lubavitcher. And that is that the paragraphs are written in a certain way. And if you look at the first, in the Hebrew side, if you look at the first letter of each of the paragraphs, it spells, the first paragraph starts with an aleph, the second with a hey, the third with a vez, and the fourth with a hey. It spells the word ahava, which means love. And how did we get to composing this nusach, this dialect of invitation? And we do it till today, the last 90 years, because this is the way the Frierdiker Rebbe composed the nusach for the Rebbe and the Rebbetzins wedding. Now, he also actually sent different invitations to different people. If there's a lot of history behind this, I couldn't decide really what we should speak about tonight, because really we could sit here for a week and keep speaking and we would not even begin to touch, the tip of the iceberg. But that was one of the things I wanted to share, because we see today with all the things we have and all the beautiful methods and all the technology, we still go back to that exact way of writing. As a matter of fact, next time you look at an invitation, look at the English, and it'll say, depending who invites you, it'll say Kabbalas Panim, maybe 4:30, chuppah, 6 o'clock, dinner, whatever. Look in the Hebrew, and you'll notice that it will always say in the Hebrew body of the invitation, B'sha'ah ha'chamishis, in the 5th hour. It'll say that if it's at 4 o'clock, if it's at 6 o'clock, or if it's at 5 o'clock. On the bottom, you will always notice a very small asterisk, and over there it says the actual time of when it will take place. Why? Because that was the way the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote it for the Rebbe and the Rebbetzins wedding. And it wasn't only, he wrote it like that only because it actually took place in the 5th hour, whatever, if that's 5 o'clock or whatever it is, it's because it was Kabbalistically, it referred to something. Every word was holy. So in order to bring those blessings to any wedding that we make today, we copy the exact same nusach. Now, before I say anything else, I want to share with you something that I am sure you all know, but I think it would not be appropriate to begin without actually sharing this, because I think that everything we speak about is really very, very connected to these words. I'm sure you're familiar with these words. I want to tell you that the Rebbe said them on Yud Daled Kislev, exactly this day, was Tafshin Yud Daled. Okay, Tafshin Yud Daled would be 1954. And this is what the Rebbe said. Few words, I'll say them in Yiddish, you probably heard them, and we'll translate them. Das ist der Tag, was man hat mir verbunden mit euch und euch mit mir. This is the day, Rebbe said this out of farbrengen, that connected me to you and you to me. Und zusammen wollen wir ausmattern die Geula hamitis v'hashleima. And together we will tease out the Geula hamitis v'hashleima. What was the Rebbe referring to here? And he spoke about it at length numerous times. The Rebbe said the following: why is this the day that I, being like the Rebbe, became connected to you, to the Chassidim, and you, the Chassidim, became connected to me? Why on this day? Because what the Rebbe was saying was, today is the day that he married the Frierdiker Rebbe's daughter. The Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rebbe always spoke about the Rebbe. He never spoke about himself. He spoke about, if you listen, you'll hear numerous, hundreds of times, he said these words, the Rebbe der Shver, which means my father, the Rebbe, my father-in-law. For practical purposes, the way the Rebbe led the world and the Chassidim was, he's the body that's here physically now, but the Frierdiker Rebbe is really leading the community. So he was saying the fact that I married his daughter, so I became the next in line, so to speak. So just like you were connected to the Frierdiker Rebbe, to the previous Rebbe, we are connected now in that way. And just like the Frierdiker Rebbe was connected to the Chassidim, and the Chassidim to him, so too the same exact thing applies today. So I want to tell you something. I was thinking about something that would be interesting. You know, whenever I hear from people, I always like to hear things that they lived through. I like to hear what they physically experienced. I'll share something that was very fascinating to me when it was the Rebbe and the Rebbetzins' 50th wedding anniversary. I was then in high school. I think I was in high school. I think I was in high school. And Neshei Chabad and Benos Chabad, everybody got together and said, what are we going to give the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin as a present for their 50th wedding anniversary? If you think about it, what do you give the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin? You know, we can't even imagine what do we give. Now, at that time, we heard from some of the people that worked in the Rebbe's home, we said, could you try to find out what would the Rebbetzin want as a gift from the girls? Neshei Chabad, I'll tell you in a minute what they did, but we were the girls, we were the high school and the seminary. I can't even believe it now when I think about it. The high school of Beis Rivka and the seminary all together, the 4 grades of the high school and the seminary was literally the size of 1 grade of high school today, literally. And so, you know, it was not that many people. And we all had an assembly, and somebody came and whoever they asked, and they said, the Rebbetzin said that she doesn't need any gifts. But if we want to give her something, she would like to see the talents of the girls. So everybody got together and we decided we'll give her what she wants. So what are the talents? People can sing, people can play instruments, people can draw, people can write. So everybody got together and this is what was decided. Between the high school and the seminary, there were several gifts. One was, there was a girl who was a fantastic artist. And she drew on a canvas, a tremendous tree. And it was really a tree with all the branches. It was a family tree. It was the tree of the Rebbeim and the Rebbetzins. And what she did with it was a brilliant idea. We wanted to do something that every single girl in the school could participate in. Some people could draw, some people could sing, some people can't draw, but they could do something else. So what she did was she drew this canvas onto I don't know, I haven't seen this around in years, but like when we were girls in school, one of the things was a big thing then was called a hook rug. You know what to hook a rug? You know what I'm talking about? I haven't seen it in ages, actually. Okay. Anyway, so she drew this tremendous canvas and she made on a hook rug, and every single girl and you know, it was beautiful. Like certain colors of wool went to different parts, but every single girl wove in at least 1 or 2 or however many pieces of wool so that she was part of this thing. And it was truly beautiful. It was like 5 feet tall. It was tremendous. And we had it framed. It was very beautiful. Then we had all the girls who wanted to sing, knew how to sing, or just wanted to be part of it. We had a beautiful choir. And which songs did we sing? And we had people who played instruments play music. And we had somebody come and record the whole thing. And we gave it to the Rebbe, you know, it was part of the gift. We sang songs. Basically, we sang songs that the girls had made up for different reasons about Hasidim and the Rabbeim and the Rebbetzins. And some of the Nigunim that we knew, the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, we heard from people that they were very close to their hearts.
Just in their home?
I'll tell you that we did this all before. And then we also had somebody who was she was a calligraphist, somebody who knew how to write, made up a beautiful poem about the 50th anniversary. And this girl put it on a tremendous card, and we bought 50 roses. And there was a guy roll and 2 girls, 1 or 3 girls to go and bring this gift to the Rebbetzin. They made an appointment. So they want to come and bring a gift from Benos Chabad, from all the girls. And we all were so excited for them that they won. Everybody wanted to be that person to be able to. And they went to the Rebbetzin and they came back and they said that she was so gracious. And she, of course, you know, welcomed them and she gave them tea and she spoke to them a little bit. And they were warned before, you know, pretty much like drop off the gift and leave. So they, you know, they did their best and they left. Anyway, the next day, Beis Rivka got a phone call from one of the maskirim. I don't remember if it was Rabbi Groner or Rabbi Krinsky or Rabbi Klein, but one of them called the school and everybody was told to come to the assembly hall. I can't even tell you what the assembly hall looked like. It was in East Flatbush, where the old school was. So whatever you think, it was worse than what you think. So we all came, and they said the school wants to tell us something, that the Rebbetzin told this maskir, this secretary, the following, that this is what he said, after the girls left, when one of the people working in the house, she asked him that he should please help her take this canvas, the hook rug, and she asked him to help him stand it up on something next to the staircase, which was right when you came into the house of the Rebbe. That was the first thing you saw, so that when the Rebbe comes home that evening, he should see it. That should be the first thing he sees. And so she said, and he saw it, and he loved it, and he was so taken by the fact that the girls got together and they did something that every single girl was able to be part of it. And that she read the poem and it was beautiful, and the flowers are beautiful, everything is beautiful. And she listened to the songs and she loved it. And she said, I heard that there was a piano player and a violin. Like she was able to name it was just something really, really beautiful, and how she loved the singing, and that we made her so happy because she was able to see, she knows how talented the girls are, but she was able to actually be part of it. Yeah.
You recorded the song?
We recorded everything, yeah. And this was our gift from Benos Chabad. We were small and silly girls, but we felt I can't even describe to you how happy we were that we were able to be part of this. Now, I just remember also that year, the 50th anniversary, Neshei Chabad decided, they used to give gifts every year, but this was a big thing. And this is one of the gifts they gave. I still remember because one of my friends, her father was a jeweler at the time, and he was commissioned to make it. They raised money and they asked him to make a globe, literally like a replica of the world, gold. And they put a diamond chip in each place where there was a shliach. Now you can imagine today, there would be hundreds more. But for then, it was like an amazing thing. And with a card, and they wrote, this is what the present for the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, all their soldiers all over the world. So it's a very, very touching, beautiful thing. So this is one of the things that I personally remember from being here, growing up here and being here, at the time when the Rebbe and the Rebbetzins 50th anniversary. Now, you want to ask something? Sure. That was from the women of Neshei, the women of Chabad, the whole Neshei Chabad ladies. And, we were like, we were kids in school. We didn't know how to raise money or do anything like that. So we just had to use our talents. So now I'll just tell you something that I actually did not know this when I was growing up, maybe because it happened, when things happen every year, as you get older, you start to understand them. But there were a group of Hasidim, older Hasidim, who on the 10th, like at the end of, like up to the 20th anniversary, the 30th, the 40th, whichever year it was, this group of Hasidim would go into the Rebbe. They would ask permission if they could go in the Rebbe's room, and they would give the Rebbe a bracha for him and his Rebbetzin on, for their anniversary. And it was always, so it was the 30th anniversary, the 40th, and it was the 50th anniversary. They went in for the 50th anniversary, and when they came into to the Rebbe, they said to the Rebbe that some of us who are here to give you a bracha, we're actually at the wedding. We're actually at your wedding. And the Rebbe said then, gave them a bracha, and he said that they should be zoiche to be here for the 60th anniversary. And they were very, very excited. It was like a real special blessing for them. Okay, they went out. For some reason, normally they would go in again for the 60th anniversary. But for some reason, Rabbi Garari, Mrs. Sternberg? Yeah. Okay, her father, Rabbi Garari, Rabbi Zalman Garari, he said to a few of his older Hasidim, there were not many left. This year, why should we wait for the 60th anniversary? Let's find out if we could go into the Rebbe on the 59th anniversary, because that means we're entering into the 60th year. And the Rebbe gave us a bracha, we should live to see the 60th, so let's start it now. So they asked permission, and the Rebbe said, okay. So they came in, and my husband told me,
usually go every 10 years.
Right. And they came in, and this was like the 9th year. You know, the 9th year was finished and it was going into the 10th, as opposed to waiting when the 10th year was finished. And my husband told me that what happened was they reported afterwards. What happened was the Rebbe would always say a bracha. They would give a bracha to the Rebbe, and then the Rebbe would bench them. The whole reason why they wanted to go was, of course, to give the Rebbe a bracha, but the Rebbe would give them a bracha. So that was the whole impetus to go. So they went in, and they gave the Rebbe a big bracha. And they said to the Rebbe that we're here because we want to bless you, that you should have, that will come again for the 60th. And the Rebbe gave them back a bracha, but they said it was a very short bracha. Now, in the past, they would say what the Rebbe said, or would be on tape, and then the people who would write the sichos would write it, and they would give it into the Rebbe to edit, right, to say if it's. And my husband told me that no matter how many times they gave it in, the Rebbe did not send it back out. 2 months later, the Rebbetzin passed away. So had they not gone for this 59th, this was the 59th was the last anniversary that the Rebbetzin was here as a neshama beguf, as a physical person. So, and they had, you know, and they had given a bracha to the Rebbe that they should be here for the 60th. The Rebbe was, but the Rebbetzin was not. So it was just a very, prescient kind of situation. Now there was, it was a very special time, Yudalad Kislev. It was, I once heard something beautiful. I never repeated it before Gimel Tammuz, but then after that, he said we could say it. So when I grew up, when I was 12 years old, we moved to President Street. And we lived in the house directly across the street from the Rebbe. My parents moved to Florida. My father was very sick and they sold their house. So Malky Sperlin lives in that house now. 1295 President. Mamish directly across the street from the Rebbe. So when we moved there, my parents were very, very loath to buy the house. They were very uncomfortable. Anyway, they wrote to the Rebbe and the Rebbe gave them a bracha. They should buy the house. But when they bought the house, they told us, our parents, we were like sworn to never steer and never be outside if the Rebbe's coming out. We were like all the people that thought we saw the Rebbe all the time. They should have known that we only saw like people hiding, peeking through a window, whatever it was. So we would sometimes, I don't know if you know the history. It's not really relevant right now, but they used to have for many times. They would have a special police car that would watch the Rebbe's house. Then they would take it away. And they would bring it back and they would say they should have this, the government should do it, they shouldn't do it. But if there ever was not, they were still guarding 24/7 because the Bahrain and the guys would take turns. There was actually a time then when there was some stuff going on and people were worried and they didn't have a real police car at the time. Eventually they got it back, but that they bought a dog. There was a watchdog that would be in the back, not in the house, but like on the property in the back, and because they felt it would be safer. A lot of times Rebbetzin was home late herself. What'd you say? They were the people that would really take care of this. It was like Rabbi Garari, the same Rabbi Garari, was like, he would make sure that the Rebbe and Rebbetzin had everything there. But there were people that would, like, for instance, Rabbi Chesed Halberstam and Rabbi Schallenberg Gansberg, and there was a eunuch, there were some Bahrim, and this is literally what they did. This was their job. Now, sometimes, so because we were living across the street, sometimes if they would need something, they would come across and they would ring the bell and they would, whatever it was. Like when there were cops there, we would try very hard to be very gracious to them. So we would always, in the winter, we'd bring them coffee and tea and soup, and we would bring them presents, to make them. So what happened was that Rabbi Schallenberg Gansberg, he still takes care of like the Rebbe's room sometimes and things like that, different things in the Rebbe's house. He was helping. He would help for many years in the Rebbe's house, meaning to say, let's say something had to be set up or cleaned up or unpacked or ordered, things that take place in a house. He was very, very close, and he would take care of a lot of things. But he told us, we always heard this, and the other people also who worked, they were extremely careful not to be in the face of the Rebbetzin, and certainly not to be in the face of the Rebbe, because the Rebbe was not home a lot. So when he was home, they would disappear. Like, we don't want to be here. And that's what they would do. So he described how one day, usually the Rebbe would come home it was pretty predictable. Let's say, I'm not saying this was the time, but let's say he would come home around 7 o'clock, then it was pretty predictable that it was around that time. So he would know, let's say he had to set up something on the table, but he would just get out of the way. He says one day, unexpectedly, the Rebbe came home earlier than usual, and happened to be Yud Dalet Kislev. And he said, what happened was, there was a door, and if somebody opens up a door and you're standing behind it, and the door is open and it's a wide door, then you get stuck behind the door and maybe nobody knows you're there, right? Okay, now the Rebbe's house, if you look now, there's a front door, a glass, wrought iron glass door, and then there's a second door like that. The first door wasn't always locked, but the second door was. So sometimes they would hear, if they were close enough, they would hear the key. They knew that the Rebbe was coming in. But he says this day, he was right downstairs, right by the front door. And all of a sudden, without warning, and in one swift turn, he heard the key turned, the door opened, and he got stuck behind the door. And as he got stuck behind the door, he saw the Rebbetzin was coming down the steps, and the Rebbe was coming in, and here he is behind the door. And it's Yud Dalet Kislev, and he wanted to bury himself. And he said, what happened? The Rebbe saw the Rebbetzin coming down the stairs, and what did he say? With a huge smile, he said, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. And he said it was unbelievable, because here you saw, this was, we're not talking about regular people. We're talking about, I don't know how to quantify the holiness of such people. But he said he still had that human, all these years later, it's still a tremendous mazel tov. And later, my husband was telling me how, was it the Ruzhiner Rebbe maybe? I'm not sure if I'm mentioning the right source, said that what happens on an anniversary. An anniversary means, why do we celebrate an anniversary? Just like why do we celebrate a birthday? So, in the world, everybody celebrates things, it's a good party and it's a nice day and you could get gifts and it's very, very nice. But according to Yiddishkeit, it's much more than that. It's the holiness, the energy, the sparks, the kedusha that happened on that day. It rehappens every single year on that exact day. This is one of the reasons why, if you ever thought about it, lahavdil, Thanksgiving, let's say, it's the last Thursday generally of November, right? That might be, maybe one year it's November 27th, maybe one year it's November 26th, maybe, but it's the last Thursday. Or think, that's how it is. So, but according to the Torah, there's no such thing. There's no yontif you'll say it is a particular day. Yud Daled Nisan is going to be Pesach. It doesn't matter if it's Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, it's going to be exactly then. Why? Because it says that on that day, that 24-hour period or whatever the holiday takes, that exact energy that happened X amount of years ago is back here. And now we have a new opportunity to elevate it again. That's the same thing with an anniversary. It's taka beautiful and wonderful, and we're human beings. So of course we want to make a party, and we should. And of course we want to celebrate and have gifts and all of that, which is a very wonderful thing. But it's much more than that. It's the fact that we're recommemorating and reliving this holiness that happened on this day. The holiness of two souls coming together on the day that two Jewish people got married. That holiness, that great moment, which it says is the greatest moment ever. Alter Rebbe writes, why is it such a holy moment? Why is it so special? Why is a wedding so exciting? And it's such a beautiful idea. Why? Because imagine if two people who really, really love each other, very, very close relatives, a mother and a child, anybody, They love each other, and then they're separated for 20, 25 years, however many years, 30 years. And then they get back together again. What kind of joyous occasion is that? It's a tremendously joyous occasion if they really, really love each other. So that's what happened at birth. The soul was basically split. And they have all these years, they're waiting to meet each other. So why is a wedding so happy? Because it's literally the two halves that have been yearning for each other, that have been missing each other all these years, they're finally back together again. It's such a happy, momentous occasion. So that's really what an anniversary is. And that's really why the Rebbe and the Rebbetzins anniversary is so special, because it's really like the prototype or the macrocosm for all of our little things that we try to do. This is really, what does it mean? It's like, what's so special? I don't know if you're familiar with this, but if you ever have a chance, you could today you could probably actually look everything up online, even like Chabad.org or wherever, straight, Google everything. Every year on the Rebbe and the Rebbetzins anniversary, the Rebbe's father, Rebbe Levi Yitzchak, would write a letter to the couple. And it was always about the number of the year. So if it was the 5th anniversary, write something that was related to the number 5. If it was the 7th, it was something related to it was beautiful, beautiful brachas and blessings, and really very, very, such heartfelt, beautiful blessings about what it is to build a Jewish home, what it is to establish a home, and to really have it for generations and generations. And for the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, all the Chassidim, I'm sure you're familiar with that story, and it's actually a true story. There was a song made about it, about a family who went to visit the Rebbe with their little boy, and the Rebbetzin in the house. They went to visit the Rebbetzin, and there was he asked the Rebbetzin, where are your children? It's a little tiny kid. And the Rebbetzin said, all our children are in 770. Mm-hmm. So it's so touching, and it's such a beautiful, and we really are. We are the children, and our children are the children, etc., etc. I heard actually a shliach said this at this Kinos HaShlachim, an Israeli shliach. I heard him say something that was beautiful how he said it. He said, everybody, you have children, it's the biggest blessing in the world, right? He says, and then if you're blessed with grandchildren, that's just like really something unbelievable. He says, what happens? He says, you have children, and you take care of them, and you nurture them, and you stay up with them at night, and it's not always rosy, but that's the part of raising children. But then you have grandchildren, and what do you do when you bring them, you take the children's children, you become the grandparent, and you get to see the fruit of all the hard work that you did. So this is what I do as a shliach. I live wherever I live. I feel like I'm the Rebbe's child, he says. And then I meet all these neshamas. And what do? Because I'm the Rebbe's child, to me, they're the Rebbe's grandchildren. So I bring them to the Ihil, and I bring them to 770, and I tell them, this is your grandfather. And I found it to be so beautiful, because it was so touching to me, how this is really, it's the perpetuation, and that's really what it means, a wedding. It means that it's not an ending. It's actually every year, it's a new beginning. It's a new opportunity to tap into the unbelievable holy energy of what this idea of the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin getting married actually is. Now, I thought I would share something with you that's a beautiful, beautiful modern day Yud Dalet Kislev story. Why? Because it really is a story that happened in our generation, and it has an amazing connection to Yud Dalet Kislev. And the story was told by Rabbi Moshe Kotlarsky, and I'm sure you know that he travels everywhere all the time for Chabad, and he did that when the Rebbe was here. And he told the story how on one of his travels to South America, he met a Jew. He was a wealthy Jew, and he was a prominent leader in the community there. And while he was visiting with him, this Jew from South America said to him, listen, please do me a favor. I have a daughter. She's in New York, and she was pulled into a horrible cult. And I don't know, it's terrible. Please do me a favor. When you go back to New York, please try to see if you could find her and pull her out of this terrible cult. And he describes how he promised. So he came back and he had to, he gave his words. He thought he was going to do it. So he went and he did some research and he found where this cult was. And he went and bottom line was, he said, after a lot of hard work, he found this girl and he spoke to her. Spoke to her once, he spoke to her twice. He doesn't really elaborate exactly what happened, but the bottom line is eventually he was able to have enough hashpah on her to extricate her from these horrible people. And he said, look, if she was my child, I would want someone to really embrace her. So he invited her to his home. She came to his home, and when she saw that he actually he doesn't know from a hole in the wall, but he opened up his home, and so she became more and more connected until she finally separated from the cult, and she started to learn more, and he sent her to study, and she became Shomer Torah Mitzvahs, and he kept in touch with her. And one day she calls him up, and she tells him the great news: I'm engaged to be married to a wonderful Jewish, from Israeli boy who also came back to Yiddishkeit. And she says, and I want you to meet my husband, and we want you to please be Mesader Kedushim for us. You should please, marry us off. And he said he agreed. Okay, he agreed. He met the boy and the girl. He was very happy. And the boy said to him, we'll be in touch. Okay, it's a little bit before the wedding. And he was in touch, and he said, that usually before Shabbos, the Shabbos before a wedding, there's an ufruf, and the boy gets an aliyah. And okay, the boy and the girl told him after the Shabbos, which was, between the Shabbos and the wedding, they said to him, listen, the boy said, listen, my family came from Israel. The wedding was in a fancy hotel in Manhattan. So my parents came, but my father, I just want you to know, don't expect anything from my father. He was a young kid in the ghetto in Warsaw, and his father, who was a very frum Jew, was killed in the Holocaust. Everybody was killed. He was the only one that survived, and he made up his mind the minute he finished with the Holocaust, when they were freed, that he will have absolutely nothing to do with religion ever again. And he was very angry that his son became frum, but he agreed to come to the wedding. But when his son said to him that there is a custom that we go to shul before the wedding to have an ufruf, the father said, I will not go. I don't go into synagogues. Do what you want, but I will not go with you. And he said he felt very broken, and he thought his father came all the way from Israel. You know what? He's not going to go to shul. He thinks it's more important to stay with his father. He invited a few friends, and they spoke some words of Torah, and they davened a little bit in the house, and that was it. Okay, Rebbe Kotlarsky, the morning of the wedding, he went into the Rebbe, and he told the Rebbe that this couple, he told him the names, are getting married today, told him about who this couple was, and I am going to be Mesader Kedushim because they asked me to go. The Rebbe heard the names of the people, and the Rebbe said, but they made the wedding. Unbeknown to this boy and girl, the day they chose ended up being Yud Dalet Kislev. They had no idea. So he told the Rebbe, they're getting married today on your anniversary. The Rebbe looked at him, and the Rebbe said, this man, this husband, I know his grandfather. I knew his grandfather. His grandfather was at my wedding, the Rebbe said to Rabbi Kotlarsky. And at my wedding in Warsaw, his grandfather gave me a gift, a sefer that he himself wrote, and I still have it. I suggest that you ask the people in the library to give you that sefer and take it with you and hold it under the chuppah. It'll be a good schus for the grandson and the kala under the chuppah. So he takes the sefer and he comes to the wedding, And he comes to the wedding, and he comes early before the whole Tnoyim and everything is written. And the husband comes over to him and he whispers in his ear, he says, listen, I'm sorry again. My father is in a very, very angry mood and he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. So please just leave him alone and do whatever you have to do. And if he cooperates, he cooperates. If he doesn't, so Rabbi Kolarski, don't worry, I'm not going to bother him. But he could do whatever he wants. Okay. At the ceremony, by the husband's table, the husband says to Rabbi Kolarski, maybe you could share a few words what it means to have a chuppah. And most of my friends don't know, and my family, nobody really understands what it is. He says, sure. And he explains to them what does it mean in Jewish marriage and why we have a chuppah and how we chuppah the kedushin. And I give him the whole story. And then he takes out from his pocket, from his his kapasa, his pocket, he takes out and he says, and I want to show you something, all of you people here. You see this book? I want to tell you that you chose a date to get married. That is the 14th of Kislev today on the Jewish calendar. This also happens to be the anniversary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe and Rebbetzin. And the grandfather of this chassan was at the Lubavitcher Rebbe and Rebetzin's wedding, and he gave them a gift. And I have the gift here. And he took out the book and he showed it to them. And he said, there was silence, and he saw the father staring. He couldn't tell if he was going to beat him up or if he didn't know what. And he says, as he finished speaking, he noticed that his father left the room. Okay, he finished. They were getting ready now. The girl was going to have the badekun, right before they cover. And he goes out and he sees that the father of this boy, he's standing. There was a payphone in the hotel. This is years and years ago. He's standing in the payphone booth and he's weeping. He's just sobbing. He says, I decided I should let him have his privacy. And I walked away. We had the whole chuppah and everything else. The wedding was very, very beautiful. And that was it. He said later on, he found out from the chassan and the kala, who are a very wonderful, happy couple, that the father, after he came back to Israel after this wedding, he changed his whole life. His whole life turned around. He became a frum Jew. And all because he could not believe that there was a gift that his father had given to the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. The Rebbe kept it all these years and thought enough to tell Rabbi Kotlarski to take it with him, to hold it under the, while the marriage was taking place, for them to have a host. So you could imagine this is the power of what it means when we think about, the holy day. Yes, obviously it's just not coincidence. It was a serious hashgacha protest that they decided to choose this day because all these pieces had to be in place. So again, you see, this is like it's just something so unbelievable to, when we feel the real, the sparks, the holiness, the energy, whatever we want to call it, that are here. Sometimes we think to ourselves, what does that mean? Where's the energy? I don't see it. You know what? I also don't see the waves that are making me send an email and it gets somewhere. I don't see that either. And neither does a scientist. He could explain it to you in all kinds of terms, but then he can tell you the truth. I don't really know what I just said. I know the words, but honestly, this is how it is. And so if we could believe that, there's certainly no reason why we can't believe that it works in a spiritual sense as well. And I want to share one other amazing, incredible story that I heard from a brother of mine many years ago. And this was really a mind-boggling story. My brother does a lot of business, travels a lot to the Far East. And now there are many more direct flights, and most of the time they fly direct and whatever. But in the early years, they would stop often in different, they would stop in different parts of the world, and sometimes they would go the route where they would stop in Italy. And one of the reasons they would also stop there was because they were also doing some business there, whatever the case is. So one day my brother calls me up. This is many years ago. I remember that my children were small when I heard the story because they were screaming in the background and I wanted to hear the story and I kept telling him to be quiet. So that story always is in my mind like that. And he tells me the most amazing thing. He said, I was traveling to Hong Kong and there was a big jewelry show there. And so, of course, who's in the jewelry business? Many, many Jews. So there were quite a few Jews on the flight. And I sit down and I see that right next to me, there is a frum Jew. And he sits down next to me, a very nice Jew. You know, I wasn't sure exactly, you know, if he was, what kind of, you know, how he described himself, but I could see he was a, you know, a frum Jew. He sits down and it's a very long flight. So we're talking, we fall asleep, we talk some more. And he says to me, you know, where are you? Where are you from? And he says, I live in Montreal. This guy says, I live wherever. And they start to talk. And he tells my brother, listen, he saw my brother was putting on tefillin. He saw that he had 2 pairs of tefillin. He says, oh, you're Chabad? Yes, I'm Chabad. Oh, so my brother says, where are you from? He says, I live in Flatbush. I want to tell you something. The circles that I go in and my family, they are not Chabad. And they, I'm sorry, I'm embarrassed to say this, but they do not like the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And they're always ready to poke fun at whatever. But I want to tell you something that happened that changed my life. And I made a decision that no matter what it's going to cost me, I am going to tell my friends and my relatives what I really think about the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And you know what? I did. And at first, they all laughed at me. But now they see why the Lubavitcher Rebbe and his Chassidim do what they do. And this is what he said. He said he travels all the time, this route, and he goes to Italy a lot. And one fine day, of course, you know that all the people who love Chabad and the people who do the opposite of love us, there's one thing they all do. They all travel with, well, now no one needs a book. Now everybody has a phone. Everybody knows exactly where you could get kosher food, a minyan, a mikvah, or anything else you need. All you have to do is contact Lubavitch, right? It doesn't matter who you are, what you are. They will never turn you away. They will always give you what you need. So he says, I'm traveling one day, and it's Thursday evening, and I am coming to Italy, and I'm supposed to be in a hotel for Shabbos. And I come to the hotel, and guess what? They say, sorry, sir, no reservation. He says, what do you mean no reservation? I made a reservation X amount of weeks ago. And we get into a whole argument. They say, listen, sir, we didn't know what to tell you, but there's no reservation. And you know that there's a big show going on in Italy this week, and there are really no rooms to be had. So sorry, sir, we can't help you. He starts screaming at us, listen, you could take it up with your credit card company. Maybe they'll pay you back. There's nothing we could do. You don't have a reservation here. He's so upset. What does he do? He was already in Italy many times. And he many times needed kosher food. So he went to the shliach there, Rabbi Borenstein. And he knows his house, and he knows this, and he knows that. So it's Thursday, very late in the evening, and he's a little bit embarrassed, but what should he do? So what does he do? He calls up Rabbi Borenstein. And he says, listen, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry to bother you. But here he tells him the story. He says, don't worry about it. You come to my house for Shabbos. He says, okay, are you home now? I'll come. He says, listen, I'm not home now because I have to go do something very, very important. But if you want, you could come over and just, he says, who's in your house? He says, my wife, my kids. He says, no, I'm not so comfortable. I'll wait till you come home. And he realized this guy doesn't really have where to wait. So he says, where are you going to wait? He says, in the lobby of the hotel. He says, no, you know what? I have a better idea. I'm not so far from the hotel. I'll swing by with my car and I'll pick you up. You'll put your stuff in my car and come with me. I have to do something, not for a long time. And you come with me and then we'll both go back to my house together. You'll stay by me for Shabbos. It's going to be wonderful. Anyway, don't forget, this is a guy, Rabbi Borenstein doesn't know. This is a guy who doesn't really have too much respect for Lubavitch because of the way he grew up and the way his family and everything else. Okay, so he comes. Rabbi Borenstein picks him up, throws his bags in the trunk. He says, okay, come with me. I have a mission. I have something I got to do. When I finish, I'll take you home. I figures, who knows? Maybe he has to shop for Shabbos. Who knows? So he gets into the car and this, I don't know if you've been to Italy, but people drive there like maniacs. Okay, so he says, this rabbi, you would think he drives like a maniac. He's speeding and he's flying and he's taking curbs and he's thinking, I'm holding onto my seat. He says, don't worry about it. It's all good. And he drives a little bit out of like the city limit and he stops in a parking lot with tons of cars. And he starts looking, he finally finds a parking spot. He says to the guy, I have to go in here for a few minutes into that building over there. He looks and he sees like a low slung building. doesn't understand what's going on in this building. He doesn't know. He doesn't really speak Italian too much. Sees like some kind of, big sign on it. So if you want, you could come in with me, or you could stay in the car. But why should you stay alone in a parking lot? Come in with me. So the guy says, okay. He thinks he's going to probably drop something off or who knows what. So he goes with this guy, and he's following him, and he comes to the building, and he opens up the door, and this Jew cannot believe what's going on here. This Lubavitcher Chassid, a shliach, who looks mamish like he came out of the shtetl from 1800, is walking into what ends up being a disco. That place is hopping. There are lights, and there is music, and people are dancing, dressed, not dressed, you name it. And people are drinking, and he's like, what is going on here? Yeah, probably Chabad really is nuts. That's what he's thinking in his mind. And he sees that this guy, he's like, really, he like runs in between the crowd. He's running and he's looking, and he's telling him, come with me. And he's thinking to himself, oh my God, if anybody knew when I was in here, that would be the end of me. Anyway, he's thinking, this has got to be something unbelievable. Nobody had cell phones then, or he probably would have videoed the whole thing. Anyway, he sees, what does this Rabbi Bornstein do? He makes his way through all these people. He gets to the stage. He walks up to the stage. Now imagine this guy with a beard and the whole 9 yards, walks over to the DJ and whispers something in his ear. The DJ looks at him and like, okay. And he gives him the mic. It's dead silent in a split second. Everybody's listening. What's going on here? And he gets up and with real passion in Italian, so this Jew doesn't really understand half of what he says, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something very important. There's an engagement party going on here right now. It's an engagement party of a girl and a boy. The girl is a Jew and the boy is not a Jew. This is really a terrible thing for both of them. A Jew should marry a Jew, a non-Jew should marry a non-Jew. They could be the nicest people in the world, but it doesn't work like this. This is not what God wanted. I'm telling you, this is not a good thing. It's not going to end well. Rethink what's happening here. And he could see like people's faces are just draining. And then he says, I hope you understand. I came here to tell you this from my heart. I'm a shliach of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Schneerson in New York. He lives in Brooklyn and he's thinking about every Jew. And he sent me here to remind you that you're a Jew and you should not marry a non-Jew. And thank you very much. He gives back the microphone and he scatters out really fast. And this guy runs after him. And that's it. Okay, he gets into the car with this Jew and he goes, what was that? What is going on here? And he says, let me tell you something. I have no idea what's going to happen, but let me tell you something. I came to this town, I don't know, 10 years ago, 20, whatever it was. And I know one thing. I came here, the Rebbe sent me here to take care of all the Jewish children in the world. A father called me a few weeks ago, and he said, Rabbi, I don't know who you are, but I must have a meeting with you. A man and his wife. I went to meet them. He says, I thought, maybe they want to help me, maybe they want. I come in, this couple says, listen, we need help of a rabbi. He says, well, how can I help you? He says, we have a daughter. She's beautiful. She's smart. She's intelligent. She's talented. And she fell in love with a non-Jew. And honestly, we're guilty because we didn't really raise her to know what it means to marry a Jew, but we cannot live with ourselves if she's going to marry a Jew. Our parents died for Judaism. Please help us. He says, did you speak to your daughter? The couple says, yes. He says, what did you say? She says, I don't care. This is who I'm marrying. So Rabbi Bornstein says, listen, if your daughter doesn't listen to you, why would she listen to me? She knows me. She doesn't know from a hole. But why would she even want to talk to a guy who looks like me? And they said, we don't know. She probably won't. But we have to do whatever we can. We don't know what to do. We went to one rabbi. We went to another rabbi. They all tried, and they all said, maybe try the Chabad rabbi because we can't do anything. So he said, please, will you talk to our daughter? He said, I'll try, but I don't have a good feeling about it because why would she talk to me? He says, please try. So he said, okay. I'll make an appointment to speak with your daughter. He said he came home. He told his wife the story, and his wife said she saw that literally the next few days, this Rabbi Bornstein was mamish. He could not come to himself. He couldn't eat. He couldn't sleep. He kept thinking, what could he do? If this man already reached out to him, that means maybe this is why the Rebbe sent him here. He doesn't know what to do. So finally, he gets the phone number from this couple. He calls the daughter. He says, my name. She says, I don't want to talk to you if you're a rabbi. Goodbye. Calls the parents. Says, she hung up on me. Says, please call again. Anyway, he called a few times. She finally gave him the courtesy to speak to him. She sat there. She said, I'm not interested. I love this man. I'm marrying him. He went back to the parents and he said to them, this is what's happening. What else could I do? They said nothing. He said, tell me. They said, you know what? On this night, they're having an engagement party. He said, okay, they gave me that piece of information. I'm going to do something with it. And for 2 days, I did not sleep. And then I said to myself, that's it. I davened. I wrote a note to the Rebbe, and I decided that's it. What's going to happen? The worst thing, they'll throw me out. I decided I'm going to go do what I have to do. So that's what you saw tonight. I went into the thing. I told him exactly the way it is. It's not good for him. It's not good for her. And that's it. And he left. He didn't know what would happen. He says, okay. This Jew is telling my brother the story. He says, guess what? 4 months later, he's back in Italy on business. He goes to meet Rabbi Bornstein. He says to Rabbi Bornstein, I just want to know what happened with that story. He says, I'll tell you what happened. I left when you left the disco. After I left, I heard later, the next day, the father and mother called me and they said, after you left, perfect thing happened. A fight broke out. The non-Jews said, you see, the Jews are such nasty people. You see, they came to break up, whatever. And finally, the girl said, yeah, why would I want to marry you who hates Jews? And that broke up the engagement. And that was it. She was very lost and very torn. And you won't believe this. Maybe 2 years later, I don't know when it was, my brother was in Italy, spoke to her and he said, you won't believe it. This girl is married in Israel. Beautiful people. This is years ago. I don't know what's, now. Why? Because the shliach wasn't about him. It was about the fact that, this is a Jewish wedding. And this is not just for, it's for all the generations. And that's it. So he says, now this man from Flatbush says, so now everybody knows what I really think about the Lubavitchers. And it's unbelievable because you realize that, sometimes we have to do what we have to do. Sometimes it's comfortable, sometimes it's not comfortable, whatever the case is. But this idea of doing what we have to do and doing it in a way that's not, it's not about me. It's what has to get done. It's our mission. Is really an unbelievable thing. And when it comes to ideas of like marriage, we really do celebrate the Rebbe, the Rebbetzins anniversary every year because it gives us the ability to really tap into whatever it is. It's a holy day. Somebody is looking for their bashert. Every day is a great day for that. But you have special days, just like on your birthday, your mazel is goiver, you're able to give more powerful blessings. It's the same thing. Any day that's related to a Rebbe is also a day that's related to the rest of the world because in the Shema Klolis, it's an all-encompassing holiness that is for everybody. So this is the kind of day that we're celebrating today and commemorating. And I just want to say Hashem should help every single person that's here, that's listening, that's every Jew in the whole world, whoever needs to find their bashert, this is a perfect time. Hashem, please send them their bashert. And whoever Baruch Hashem found their bashert, Hashem should bless everyone that they should have a beautiful, wonderful shalom bayis. It should be a beautiful, beautiful life. And also on this day, Hashem should bench everyone who has, Baruch Hashem is married, whoever has children, they should be able to raise them really with all the things that they need and want for them, that a Jewish person needs, that a chassid needs, and whoever doesn't should be and will, and Hashem, be blessed with children, should give the ultimate bracha, bana, chaya, mezona, and v'chulu v'revichi. That includes every single thing you could imagine. Every kind of treasure that you want, begashmius, beruchnius. This is really an amazing moment to ask Hashem for that. And you know what? Like the Rebbe says, we ask when we really mean it, Eibishter gives it to us. So it should happen for all of us. My pleasure. Does anybody, I do want to say one thing about this book. Girls, this is a true story. Last year, my cousin made a wedding for his child. And at the wedding, he gave out one of these books to every guest. It had just come off the press, literally. And he gold stamped it, whatever. Okay. At the time, there was a girl that I was very, very close to, who is, a wonderful, wonderful girl who really was having a very, very, very difficult time finding her zivug, finding her bashert. And I don't know, just on a whim, like she was talking to me and I whatever, the day before, and then I went to the wedding and I came home with this book and she asked me something. She was dating somebody on and off. And I said to her, I got this gift tonight. Oh, 1 minute. I came from the wedding and I sat at the, I like you said, you read it? I read the whole book that night. It's very, very easy reading. It's very, very fast and easy. And it's really beautiful. Like it's perfectly concise. So I read the whole book, and the next day I texted her. I said, you know what? I have a book for you to read. I'll give you a gift, whatever. She just got married, by the way, ladies. So I want to just tell you that it's just amazing. She said every time I had doubts, I kept thinking, okay, let me go back. What did the Rebbe say in that book? Because it's much easier than going back to all the sikhs and all the, So it's actually a beautiful gift. Amazing that you really, it's beautifully done.
Wow.
Ladies, does anybody want to share something? Now that I spoke your ears off?
Are there any questions? Firstly, I just have a question. I hope you don't mind.
You could ask anything.
Did your mother-in-law ever teach you?
My
Mother-in-law?
No.
Okay.
She didn't teach in those days. I mean, no, she actually didn't teach then.
Oh, really? I was always curious because you say all these beautiful stories about Beis Rivka, and I know now she teaches high school, right?
Now she teaches 7th grade.
Oh, 7th.
For years already. Yeah.
Sylvia Jacobson.
Bobby Jacobson, she's called in school.
Jacobson, yes.
Bobby Jacobson. Or like one of my grandsons says, I'm Bobby Jacobson, and we have another Bobby Jacobson, the one with the yellow hair.
She also just spoke for us.
Right. That's right. That's right.
Yes.
That's so funny. Yeah.
I was wondering, did she make this shit up from high school?
That's hysterical. I actually knew his sisters. So one of his sisters did. Yeah,
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, my family knew his family. It was a small little Crown Heights in those days.
You said just Chabad, like that wouldn't be possible today if Chabad coming to.
I know.
Perform. It's like hundreds of thousands of girls.
Literally, can I know how it's really mind-boggling. Like I cannot believe it.
Like how much Chabad grew.
Do you know when I was in 2nd grade, that was the first year Beis Rivka came to a decision that there are too many kids in one class, and they split. The first time they split a class was when I was in 2nd grade, and they made it into 2, and then there were 15 kids in each class because it was 30, and 30 was becoming too big, and that was only because there was a lot of pressure from people. 30 children, 1 teacher. There were no assistants in those years or anything of that sort. Forget it. Yeah, it was the only school. And so and when I graduated 12th grade, we had the biggest grade in like years, and it was 50 girls. And that was enormous. Literally, that was a tremendous. Now there are 6 9th grades in Beis Rivka.
Was it even all above it?
And it's not even the only one.
In my days?
In Beis Rivka.
Now or then?
Then, I'm sure. I remember it wasn't even Lubavitch.
No, I'll tell you what. There were girls who were not necessarily Lubavitchers, whose parents wanted a from school. There were also kids, which was amazing because the most unbelievable thing I have with my classmates, we have a WhatsApp group. We made it Shnas Hakel. And girls that were in my class in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, they lived like what today now has become again. But now Crown Heights has moved into East Flatbush, right? So there were then like these Jewish families in East Flatbush who were not really observant, but people like Rabbi Hecht, the original Rabbi J.J. Hecht, and Rabbi Bucket, the original, they got all these kids to go to Beis Rivka. And they managed, their lives were changed. Also, Beis Rivka was one of the only schools that accepted people without tuition. They still don't pay their teachers for that reason. I'm kidding. It's just a joke, obviously. But these people's lives really were changed, sincerely. Unbelievable. Like, it's amazing. So yeah, there were definitely girls that were not, what does it mean, not a Lubavitcher? Yeah, it was, whatever, but they were tremendous. Also, the yeshiva was also like that.
I'm saying like even that there were fewer Lubavitch girls even on that.
Very
Maybe
few.
Even
They
that
really
wasn't
were.
all Lubavitch.
They really were very few. Even like like let's say Camp Amuna. Camp Amuna was actually the first from girls overnight camp ever
Wow.
in the mountains. Yeah. Rabbi and Rebbetzin Hecht, I once heard directly from them how they went to the Rebbe and they discussed it. And they even said to the Rebbetzin Hecht told me this, I heard from her mouth directly. She said that they were in Chassidus, they said they're going to open a camp. And they asked, Rabbi Hecht asked the Rebbe, what should our MO be? Should it be that we are making a camp for Lubavitcher kids? Should we make it, what should the camp be? And the Rebbe said, the mission is to make a camp. The camp should make gute, frumme, idische Mädel. Did not say they should be Lubavitchers. Be good from kids. And the truth is, for many years in the beginning, very, very few Lubavitcher girls went to Camp Amuna. Lubavitchers that lived in New York, that they didn't have 2 nickels to scrape together to send their kid to camp. So if somebody had a little bit of money and they got a bungalow in the mountains, they couldn't afford the bungalow and the camp. So the bungalow was for the whole family, whereas camp was for each kid. So it was obviously very difficult. So there were like a lot of girls from the very big, successful from school then in New York, in Brooklyn, was called Yeshiva of Brooklyn. It was a very good school. And a lot of their girls would come, Beis Yaakov girls, all kinds of, and then slowly there were a few Lubavitcher girls, and the next year a few more, and the next year a few more. But for many years, it wasn't like, I remember as a little girl going to Camp Amuna one year, and I called my parents and I said, take me home. And they said, why? I said, you sent me to a not Jewish camp. And my father said, what? I said, look, on visiting day, I couldn't wait to show him what I meant. What did I mean? Shows you what a little shtetl and how insulated we were. I showed him the siddur that they had in the shul was Siddur Shiloh. It wasn't even Tilas Hashem. It wasn't the Nusach that we daven, because most of the kids were not Lubavitchers. Like the Lubavitchers who were older, they brought their own siddur. I didn't even understand the fact that there's such a thing as more than one. I never heard of such a thing, It's just so funny how, when. Yeah, I mean, the truth is, eventually, when I got older, that was the siddur everywhere. Yeah. Wherever you went, Siddur Shiloh was much more popular than Tilas Hashem. It's just so funny to see. So it was, the community was very, very small. It was, but it's amazing. I think if you would tell people, we once made a video. I don't even know what happened to it. I should find a copy of it somewhere, but once made a video of Beis Rivka, building it up, whatever. And we interviewed the people that were literally, most of them now, unfortunately, not alive anymore. This was at least, I remember my daughter was about 7. And now she's like 34, 30, whatever. So we interviewed some of the people who were very instrumental in building up. And I remember one of these older ladies saying, she's not alive anymore now, she said, we went to people, we literally knocked on people's doors and said, we're making a school, give us your children. And they said, who are you? She was like, making a from school. They said, we didn't close the door in their face. And she wouldn't leave. She knocked on the door again. They said, we told you we're not. She says, why? They said, we can't afford to send our kids to a school that you have to pay. She said, no, we'll take them for free. And she said, it was so unheard of. Like, there were hardly any of our own kids even. But look what happened. She said, I remember the last line she says on the video is, if you would tell me then what we have today, I would never believe it. And that was so many years ago. So today, really,
it's so unbelievable. You're reminding me, if we could share.
Of course.
About a month ago, my grandfather had his 81st birthday.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Yes. So Baruch Hashem, our whole family, just
so
his
nice.
Children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, really, all got together in Niagara Falls and then really
so
beautiful
nice.
job. It was so special. It was a few hundred of us.
I know.
Baruch Hashem, and it was one of the most amazing parts of the shop. It was planned so well, like everyone delegated, everyone took something else. I was like, it was just done so beautifully, and almost everyone came and flew in from all over the world because Baruch Hashem, Rosh Shulchan. It was
so
just
nice.
It was so stunning. And Sunday afternoon, it was like kind of wrapping up. Everyone was leaving, and it was like a spontaneous part. Like my grandfather just just sat down on a chair, and most of the great grandkids, I don't know how many there were, but
And I know Hara. Yeah.
Baruch Hashem were just sitting around. So he like put himself there on the chair and just started talking to them. So everyone like gathers around, everyone gets their phones, starts video, like what is he gonna say? And I've never seen him, he speaks a lot of farbrengen, but I've never actually seen him like get emotional. And he got really emotional and he was just talking to them and he was literally like begging them to go on shulchas, like he's a little 2-year-old.
Right, so
He
cute.
was like, he was looking at each of them, he's like, you're gonna go on shulchas, right? You're gonna go on shulchas, each of them. And then he he really emotional and he said, because he lived through like the horrors of communism
Right.
in Russia, even my parents did as well. And he told them, he said, when I was in Russia, and then he had 6 kids after his 7th was born in Israel, my uncle. He said, when I was in Russia and we were going through so many challenges, he said, I was just davening and begging that my 6 kids should just stay alive and they should know they're Jewish. He's like, that's all I was davening. Like, I got emotional.
I know, it's
like,
very emotional.
He's like, I would never know, like, believe that today
Look
I
what,
have hundreds
I know, it's
of all of
unbelievable.
you, and you're all, like,
I know,
children's
it's
kids.
amazing. It's
And,
beautiful.
like,
So amazing.
just to think how, you know, what happens and what the Rebbe did, like, it's all because of the Rebbe. Like, the fact that they were able to leave Russia, the fact that they were all able to, like, even have the energy to become shulchan, to give it over, like, it's mind-boggling.
It is.
It's so powerful, and everyone was just, like, you couldn't believe what we were, you know, seeing.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. It's really beautiful. I remember when your grandfather came. His name is Rabbi Beryl Zaltzman.
Yeah.
I remember him singing
Yeah, he used to sing for the Rebbe.
all the time. Wow. Amazing.
We were just, my husband and I, we actually just got back today. We went away to a nice tropical place.
Good for you.
Anyway, so
I want to go there.
my birthday's next week, my 30th birthday.
So nice, mazel tov.
Very good.
Yeah, so we went to the Chabad, so I want to
Right.
share, like, wherever we go, and especially, like, I just have this, like, such a strong Chabad pride, and we were there, and you were saying, everyone knows you come to Chabad. There were all these kinds of couples there on Shabbos. It was beautiful. Most, like, a lot of them were Chassidish couples, like,
Right.
Williamsburg here and there. And I was just talking to them, and I was saying how it's so nice to meet all different kinds of Jews, and they're like, yeah, you always know, like, you need a kosher place, you need a minyan, you need, like, you come to Chabad, and there was a minyan, and, like, and even the whole time I was there, like, I was, like, turning to my husband, I'm like, you find trees, like, put on film, like, we're on vacation, like, no one's watching us, like, no one's telling us what to do.
Right.
We were at the beach, and this woman, like, turns to me, and she's like, are you Jewish? And I said, yeah. She's like, oh, I noticed. She's like, your hair's covered, your husband's wearing a kippah. I was like, are you Jewish? She's like, no, I'm Catholic, but my husband's Jewish. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, I got work to do.
Right.
So we spent a few hours talking. So I got my husband, and he was talking to him. I was talking to her. We were talking for a long time. She was asking me a lot of questions, and we were talking for a while. And it was the evening. Because, like, and the next morning was their flight. Like, Mendel was doing his film the whole morning.
So
Mendel
nice.
texts every call. The whole morning, he's like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm serious. I'm like, what do you think we came here for? I'm like, the Rebbe sent us. You're gonna just come for vacation? Like,
Right.
like, hello, like, I don't care for inconvenience. Like, hello, like, just like. So he's like, okay. He calls him. He's like, I have a very special opportunity for you to put on tefillin. It's like perfect the way he said it. He's like, okay, I'm coming. And his wife came. She's like, oh, can you video it? She sent it. They did this whole thing, like, you know, with the whole tropical in the background. It was, I took the whole video.
So
and
nice.
It was his first time putting since his bar mitzvah.
Wow.
And he was like a Russian Israeli. He served in the army. It was like, he doesn't have any affiliation. She told me, she's like, I always hope that he's like more connected. She's like, I hope you stay more connected with him. Like, I want him to be connected to his Jewish roots. Which was like, wow, like, she's like a religious Catholic. But so I spoke to my brother. I was like thinking, I don't know, like, what to tell him. She's asking me, should I convert? Like, he wants me to convert, and I didn't really know what to say. But anyway, I'll find out. But it was just, it's amazing how, like, I feel like this is what the Rebbe did. Like, you know, wherever we are,
Exactly.
like even like in our hotel room, I forgot to like turn off the light fridge, and we like didn't speak Spanish. We had this guy come up, and we were doing this whole dance to try to show him like we need we need tape, we need sticky, like we need to cover the fridge, like this whole thing. Like, who's like, no one's watching us to make sure we do what we're doing, but we're like, this is who we are, like wherever we go. And it's just it's that like pride that, like, just like I'm a person, or just like I'm a woman, like I'm a chassid, that's it. Like, it doesn't doesn't
Right.
separate. And,
It's beautiful.
and it's like so exciting. Like wherever you go, like you want to do it. It's really special. Like that's just.
It is. That's
all
really
because
true.
of the Rebbe.
Thank you so much. So it's very inspiring.
Very safe.
Take tefillin with you, you'll be safe.
Yeah. Stay on the same.
Exactly. Us Jews, huh?
Yeah.
Anybody else want to share something? Say something?
I just want to comment that
Please.
so many new stories to me.
Yeah, I'm so inspired by everything that
Oh.
I shared.
My pleasure. It's, it's a work in progress. We're always, we're trying to, you got to keep them up. It's like, but you say you lie. I once said to my husband, once in my life, I'm like, let's go somewhere where nobody knows you. Let's go where there's nobody. Okay. Nobody. I don't want anyone. It's like, okay. We went somewhere. I went, God forsaken, I can't even tell you. I don't want to do anything. I just want to sit by myself and not whatever. We land. We're at the carousel. I hear somebody saying, Rebbe Jacobson, is that you? I was like, okay, this is a sign from heaven. This is God telling me. Those days are over. And there's no thing. If you're a Jew, you're a Lubavitcher, you are. This is your job. That's it. Make peace with it. Enjoy it. Like it. Because that's what, it's really unbelievable though. And then we start to think of it the other way. Like, it's actually great. Like, so what? I remember my grandmother used to say, we worry. You should, it's late. You should, whatever. Maybe you want to sleep. She'd say, sleep? After 120, I could sleep forever. Why do I have to sleep now? I confess, I still like to sleep. I
So
do.
funny is that feeling like you want to get away, like also you felt like you want to just get away, but then you come to the airport and it's just like, okay, you check your email, like
I know. It's
can't
amazing,
relate
right? It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. Ladies, so many nice, wonderful people here. Say a few words.
Last night I was by the Israeli machine.
Yeah.
So I think it was Rabbi Cohen, something from Montreal. He repeated the story of someone, I don't know which Chassid, was traveling to the Rebbe for Tishrei. It was back in Russia. And just finally,
Photo before everyone walks out. Do you mind? Is that okay?
Of
You mind
course.
taking a photo with us before everyone
Not
walks
at all.
out? Okay, everyone. Sit nice and smile.
Hi.
I'm going to, I guess I'll come behind you.
Do you want me to move?
If you want to just maybe turn around.
Does this help?
Yeah. There we go. Everybody in? 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait. I missed it over there. There we go. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Yay. Thank
You're good.
you.
Okay.
so he came to the Rebbe for Tishrei. He finally got a yichud, and he comes to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe, like, he's expecting to get a bracha or something, and the Rebbe tells him to go home. So he's like so impressed and everything, and he stops over on the way home. He stops over at a Kreshmer or something, and there's Chassidim coming to the Rebbe now, and they all see him depressed, and he tells them the Rebbe told me to go home. So they said, okay, the Rebbe told you to go home. You did what you said, but the Rebbe never said that we can't bring you back. So they go back, and they're like, oh, he has a beautiful Tishrei, and he again has Chassidus by the Rebbe, and now the Rebbe gives him beautiful bracha, and like something like at the end of Tishrei, he like, or I don't know if he asked the Rebbe what happened, but the Rebbe was saying like, I told you to go home because I saw in Shemayim this would be your last Rosh Hashanah, and a person's last Rosh Hashanah they should spend at home. But because of all the brachas of the Chassidim, like they overturned the Gezerah.
That's such a good lesson.
So we should have the power of farbrengen now. Everybody should have
Zara Haya Vekayama. Amen. Varna Haya Mizona. Right. Amen. Thank you so much. That is beautiful. Thank you. So nice. Michal, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity.
You did. You I wanted to.
It's a good book. Enjoy it, ladies, whoever has the book.
You guys sold it.
So two things. The bit of a chutzpah thing. But I was
Oh, very
wondering-
big chutzpah. Let me hear.
I was wondering, could we bring you back one day to discuss your father, you? We realize we hear all these beautiful stories, but I'd love to learn more about you.
I'm very happy to come back, but I'm a very boring person. What would you like to hear?
Oh my goodness.
I'm very happy to. Absolutely, whatever.
Also,
Be my
we
pleasure.
can get your book back from that girl.
Not yet.
So, but this was the plan. I was originally gonna give you this as a gift, and then you said you had it. I was like, find something else. So
Oh,
in the meantime,
please. You don't have to give me anything.
thank you so much on behalf of
I'm
all
so
of us.
touched.
We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
I'm
it.
so
Here's
embarrassed.
the book.
Thank you.
Nothing to
Okay,
be
okay.
embarrassed. Thank you so much.
I learned a long time ago you have to accept gifts graciously. So thank you, ladies, so much.
Famous Rebbetzin story about the chocolate.
Yes.
The boy
Boys,
that came
yes,
up.
yes, yes. It's a great story. It happened one summer. My husband actually heard it straight from the guy, from one of the tevils. He heard it, that it was, whoever had a few dollars went to the bungalow colony, which today you wouldn't look at. I mean, it was like literally whatever. So there were a few kids left in Crown Heights, and, what do you do all day? So they went a little bit to day camp, whatever, and then they would come like to 770 and hang around and play ball and whatever. So one day, a few of them were playing right in front of 770 with a ball. And all of a sudden, they saw like the few Bachar that were there, they all like ran to the side. They looked around, they saw that the Rebbetzin Hayamushka's car had driven up. So, the Bachar didn't want to be in her face. So they all scattered. And these kids were left standing there. And she came out of her car and she had a bunch of bags, a bunch of packages. Now she was going, her sister, Hannah Gurari, the Rashag's wife, lived upstairs of 770. This is years and years and years ago. So the Rebbetzin came out with the bags, and one of these kids walks over to the Rebbetzin, and perfect Yiddish, that was their first language, and they said to the Rebbetzin, could I have the honor of helping the Rebbetzin take her bags upstairs? So the Rebbetzin said, yes, thank you very much. So she went in, and he followed her, and there's this elevator that goes upstairs. So he went into the elevator with the Rebbetzin, and as he's going into the elevator holding her bags, they were not heavy, but there was a bunch of bags. The Rebbetzin noticed that this little boy, this kid, he had a cast on his hand. But he was moving with his cast anyway, so she says to the Rebbetzin, so the Rebbetzin says to him, I'm sorry, if I would have known you have a cast, I wouldn't have agreed to let you. He says, no, it's fine, no problem, whatever. Okay, so they come out of the elevator, and she says to him at the entrance of the apartment, she says, put the bags down, I'll take them in, please wait here for a minute. So he's waiting. The Rebbetzin comes out with a big chocolate, like a chocolate bar. And she says to him, here, thank you so much. You helped me and you have a cast. Thank you so, so much. This is for helping me. So he looks her in the eyes, a little, smart aleck kid. And he says to her, I don't know if you know, but I was raised in a very Chassidish home. And we were taught that when you do a Jew a favor, you don't take payment for it in Yiddish. So the Rebbe looks at him, smiles and says, maybe, I don't know if you know, that I was also raised in a Hasidic home. And we were taught that when someone gives you something good, you take it, especially a good chocolate.
Wow.
Isn't that an awesome story? I love it. It's like the best story. Like when you have kids and the kids know the story, that's it. By the way, my grandkids tell it to me. You owe me chocolate. What do you think?
Now there's
Isn't that the cutest?
comic. Have you seen the comic?
No.
There's beautiful comics of Chassidishe stories. So there's a whole.
I just heard about it. I have not seen it yet. I did hear about it very recently.
We bought them for our kids.
It's so cute.
No. It's one's about Reb Mendel Futterfall.
Yeah, I must buy them. I just heard about it actually.
It's a Kai Mushka, so this one's actually.
Where is it? Where do they
Oh, it's in the comment. That's great.
Yeah, I buy it for my kids at Microsoft.
Oh, it's great.
Well, it depends which one. There's there's different ones. So the Chassidishe comics. It's beautiful. So that we were just reading it for bedtime 1 or 2 days ago with the kids. And
That's great. That is great. That's so nice. Wow.
yes.
Thank you for sharing that. I've never
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Your stories are incredible. I've never
I don't, they're not mine.